Hello, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to Dynamic 365 Remote Assist April 2020 release webinar. My name is AJ and I will be your moderator today. We are broadcasting this web conference through Teams live events and the audio can be heard through your device speakers. Today's web conference is being recorded on behalf of the Microsoft Corporation. By participating in this session using Microsoft Teams, your name, email address, phone number, and/or title may be viewable by other session participants. If you do not consent to being a part of the recording session, please disconnect at this time. Attendees may access the recording and all session materials via the same registration link that was used to attend today's live broadcast. If you have questions for the presenters or need support, please use the Q&A panel located on the right side of your screen. Our presenters will be responding to your questions during today's session, and there will be time at the end for further questions. Thank you for your patience during these announcements. Presenting for us today from Microsoft, we have Jason Armanisi, Principal PM Manager, Zanasha Lee, Program Manager, Sophia Sun, also Program Manager, and David Clark, Program Manager as well. Jason, you now have the floor.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the very first Dynamics 365 Remote Assist webinar. We're happy to have you here on our inaugural webinar. And we've got a great agenda today to go over with you. So if you would go forward, Sophia. So we're going to go through a number of topics today. We are going to do a quick application overview. We are going to talk about what's new for the April release. We're going to go over requirements and licensing, and we're also going to go over deploying Remote Assist in a variety of tenant options. We're also going to talk about some of the common questions that we get and the answers that will help you with your customers. We'll start with the application overview. Remote Assist is based on three pillars. These are the three pillars we talk about with Remote Assist when we're talking about the application all up. This is about solving problems in real time. This is about the real connection between you and another person. Bringing critical information into view is about having the information you need while you're in that call. And walking the site without being location is about the remote aspect of Remote Assist. That you can be in one place without having to travel. So let's go into detail on these. Solving problems in real time is one of the core pillars for Remote Assist. You're able to share your view, whether you're on a HoloLens or iOS or Android device, with remote collaborators who can see exactly what you're seeing. You can also combine screenshots and videos, and more importantly, annotations. This is where we really differentiate ourselves from, say, a regular video call. The ability to have three-dimensional annotations in the world, which allow you and whoever you're collaborating with to increase the speed and accuracy of your collaboration, getting to a problem solution just that much faster. You're using, Remote Assist uses Remote Assist on iOS, HoloLens, and Android, and communicates with people on Teams. And we're also integrated to, we're integrated with Dynamics Field Service, and I'll talk about that a little bit more in detail later. Bringing critical information into view means allowing you to see your documents, being able to see your PDFs, being able to bring the information that's important to you at that time into view while you're in the middle of a call. Collaborators on PC can also share their screen to the HoloLens, so you could display information, for instance, like a PowerPoint or a PowerPoint or Word doc. You're also able to access and interact with your Dynamics Field Service work orders in view while you're on the HoloLens, allowing you to be in the HoloLens and touch your Field Service work order while still in the HoloLens. Next. So walking the site without, whoop, I think you went too far forward, Sophia. Can you go back one? Thank you. So walking the site without being on location gets to the heart of the different locations that this unlocks for with remote assist. So you can eliminate travel costs, you can reduce your environmental impact with remote inspections, real-time auditing, the calls, the break fix scenarios that we talk about, and also live training with individuals and groups from different locations. You can record a call and you can record the call log information as well. You can take screenshots and you can capture persistent details of the call that you can then reference later. You can also put a lot of that information into Dynamics 365 for field service. HoloLens 2 launched last October, and we updated Remote Assist to be compatible with HoloLens 2, and there are some advantages with HoloLens 2 that we'd like to talk about. So, for instance, you, of course, with HoloLens and HoloLens 2, you have the hands-free usage, which is a big benefit to those field service workers that want to be able to use tools at the same time they're in the middle of a call. HoloLens 2 also has a new comfortable ergonomic design and a longer battery life, which should allow for longer wear times for the field service engineers. We've increased the effectiveness of calls with our natural gestures and the wider field of view. So now with wider field of view, people are able to see more of the annotations around them. With natural gestures, they're able to interact with the UI in a much easier way. Plus, HoloLens 2 is always the lead for the holographic operating system, and will always have the most up-to-date versions of the operating system, which will mean new features as time goes on. We also have the mobile app. So the Remote Assist mobile app works on iOS and Android phones and tablets that are AR capable. This allows for that same 3D annotations in the world, but then also supports in low bandwidth environments. You can also support 2D using high resolution still images and annotating on top of those. You can, of course, collaborate with audio and video calling and in-text chat with users, Microsoft Teams users. So there are some differences between Remote Assist on HoloLens and mobile. I'm not going to go through all of the differences here, but they are there, and we wanted to make you aware. Right now, Remote Assist mobile doesn't support multi-party calling. That is that's a feature that a lot of people want. The HoloLens doesn't yet allow you to take still shots, take snapshots, and then put annotations on top of those annotations and arrows on top of those stills, but that'll be coming up soon. You cannot screen share to a mobile phone the way you can with a HoloLens. And you can share call logs, files, and snapshots, but there are limitations on Remote Assist mobile with that. We are integrated with Dynamics 365 Field Service. This allows you to view and update your Dynamics 365 bookings right within, for HoloLens, right within the actual app itself. And then while you're on either Android or HoloLens, you can go to your booking and call the expert directly from there. You are able to save call log information at the end of a call, and you were able to capture screenshots and add them to your chat and then save them into field service as well. Let's talk about what's new for April and what we just came out with. So I think the most exciting feature is the ability now to do one-to-one call recording, which wasn't a feature before. You can actually, on Remote Assist Mobile and Remote Assist HoloLens, you can now, with a one-to-one call, record the entire conversation and capture that later for, which will be saved and then later have access to that. On Remote Assist for HoloLens, you can also capture calls in meetings and in group calls at this time. You can, the benefit here is that you can later on, you'll be able to have this call. It does capture all the annotations. It does capture all of the arrows and what you are seeing in the call. And then later you can use that for your own knowledge base. Like I said before, we have the ability to post to Dynamics Field Service. And on mobile and HoloLens, both of them is for mobile after the call, the user asks where they want to post the call logs. You can see a picture of what it looks like to the right there. And if the user selects yes, then the work order and call logs and every file was there posted onto the Dynamics Field Service work order. On HoloLens, you launch the you access your booking from inside the HoloLens itself, and then are able to once again choose to put capture files and put them into your booking. Another new feature for mobile is the ability to share files. So now you're able to put files directly into the chat. This is we had that on HoloLens previously, but now it's on mobile. And for mobile, it's a wide variety of file types that you're able to post into chat and take a look at. The technician receives those from the remote collaborator and then can open them on whatever application is on the mobile device. So for instance, let's say it was a PowerPoint, you would open it, you would get it, then click on it, and then open it in PowerPoint. We've also added the ability to do low bandwidth support on on mobile. This will be coming out on HoloLens later in the year. But what it does is detects that you're having a low bandwidth connection. It offers you the option of sharing snapshots instead of trying to share a low quality feed. And you are instead then sharing back and forth these annotated images, which if you're in a low bandwidth situation is going to be a higher quality image than a bad video feed. That's it for kind of the overview. I'm going to turn it over to Zanasha to talk about requirements and licensing.
Hi everyone, I'm Zanasha, and let's talk about licensing and product requirements for remote assist. So first, let's talk about how to have the proper device for your technicians and also your remote collaborators. So the technician using remote assist will need an iOS or Android device. This can be either a phone or tablet with AR Core or AR Kit enabled on these devices. And then they will need the HoloLens, a HoloLens device, so that can be the HoloLens 1 or 2 with the current build running, which is listed in this presentation. And then if you're the remote collaborator using Microsoft Teams, they will need a PC on any Windows 10 build or an Android or iOS phone or tablet. And so given that the technician has the appropriate device, the technician can use remote assist with these, can use these current licenses in order to use remote assist. So the first license that they will need is a trial or purchase remote assist license, or if you're a field service customer, you will need a remote assist attached license. And so the attached license is if you're a field service customer, and this offers you the ability to receive a reduced price for this license. And then you would also need a Teams license, and this can be a Teams freemium or a paid Teams license. And so one thing I want to call out here is that when you do buy a remote assist license or remote assist attached license, you do get a free Teams license included, but there is some limited capabilities. And then next you will need an Azure AD account. And And then I also want to talk about the option to, set up communication access with a remote collaborator using Teams. And so this really depends on, which tenant you're in, and you might need to configure your settings so that the technician and remote collaborator can talk to each other. And then lastly, if you're a field service customer, you can use your Power BI license to access the dashboard and analytics for your field service booking. And then also for the remote collaborator, you will primarily need a Microsoft Teams license, and so this can be a freemium or a paid license. And then you would also need to set up this communication access between the remote assist user and the Teams users, and this is primarily depending on which tenant you are. And so Sophia, in a few, will talk about how to set this up. Okay, so now I want to tell you about the 3 trial offers we have. So the first is the COVID-19 trial offer, and then a license-free 90-day trial, and then lastly, the organizational trial for users in your organization. So just to talk more about the COVID-19 trial offer, we're excited to share this with you because this is a recent offer that came about with this current crisis. And so we offer up to 6 months free using Remote Assist, and you must be implementing a Remote Assist solution in response to this crisis. And so we think this will better enable our customers to do their job productively. And then in order to get this trial, you can contact your Microsoft representative or contact our sales team to discuss and activate this offer, and they can walk you through how to set up this process. Okay, so now just to go through the 90-day license-free trial for individuals who want to use the app quickly and easily. They must go to their appropriate app store depending on their device. So that could be Google Play, the Microsoft Store, or Apple Store, and download Remote Assist. And then they can sign in with their Microsoft Teams credential and select start the free 90-day trial. And then now they're ready to use Remote Assist. But before I mentioned that you might have to configure who are your contacts, in Teams, and yeah. And so for the 30-day organizational trial, this is primarily for IT admins to set up and provide up to 25 licenses to the users in their organization. And so IT admins must sign into the Microsoft 365 or Office 365 admin portal. And then we wanted to call out that right now there is a new admin center, toggle button, but in order to get the full view, you need to have this toggle off. And then they must go into the menu on that page and go to Billing and Purchases Services. And then they can search for Remote Assist or Remote Assist Attach if you're a field service customer, and they can, select Start a free trial when they find the Remote Assist button. And so, and then lastly, just on that last slide, I just wanted to mention this is also a place where you can go and buy Remote Assist licenses here, but in this case we were focusing on the trial offers. So now that you have the right device and the appropriate licenses, you can now add and assign users in your organization the right licenses. And so I'm specifically talking to the IT admins who have set up the 30-day organizational license or have purchased Remote Assist licenses. So within the Microsoft 365 or the Office 365 admin portal, they must turn off the admin center toggle, and then they can, Sophia, next slide. and then they must go into the menu and select billing and subscription. So they'll see all of the subscriptions that they have for Microsoft, and so this should include Remote Assist. Next slide. And now they can click, once they see Remote Assist, they can select Assign to Users. And then once they assign to users, now they can add users in their organization, by selecting the Add button. Select Add a User button. Yeah, correct. And after they select this, they can enter the name and the email address of the users in their organization. So if you're doing the 30-day organizational trial, this will be up to 25 people in your organization, or if you have purchased, you can do more than 25. And so once you go back, Sophia. So once you have added a user and entered in their credentials, you must make sure that you enable both Remote Assist license and the Microsoft Teams license. And so you can reference the image in the right, which shows the toggles that you must turn on. And then one thing I want to call out, if you are a field service customer, you will see the Dynamics 365 Remote Assist attach license here instead of Remote Assist. Awesome. And so you're probably wondering, what if I have, 25 users? This can be a really tedious task. So in the admin portal, there is an option to add multiple users. And so you can select the Import Multiple Users button, and you will find a CSV file where you can just easily and quickly entering your users in your organization's, name and email addresses. And then now you can quickly and efficiently assign them Remote Assist and Microsoft Teams licenses to each user. Okay, so after adding and assigning licenses to the users in your organizations, they can actually now go to the app stores on their mobile devices or HoloLens and download Remote Assist. Next slide. And so if you're on your mobile device, you would have to go to the Apple or Google Play App Store and then search for Remote Assist and launch the app, and you must sign in with your Microsoft Teams account. And now after signing in, you will be taken to your contacts page. And then now you're ready to make your, now you're able to make a Remote Assist call. And then for the HoloLens, it's a very similar process, except that they go to the Microsoft Store and then they download Remote Assist, and they still sign in with the Microsoft Teams account, and they will be taken to their contacts page. And so, so Sophia will now talk about how to set up the ability for a Remote Assist user to call and discuss a problem with a Teams user.
So thank you so much, Zanasha, for helping us understand how to assign Remote Assist licenses to first-line workers who want to use Remote Assist. So now once that Remote Assist users and Teams users have the licenses they need, the next deployment step depends on which tenants Remote Assist users and Teams users are in. So in this section, I will talk about 3 common tenant configurations, and for each, I will explain the next steps to enable Remote Assist and Teams users to communicate. So let's talk about what you need to do if your Teams users and Remote Assist users are in the same tenant and already have licenses. So for example, your organization, everyone's in the same tenant, and that tenant includes really experienced engineers and new hires who would like to maybe call the experienced engineers when they need help. So if you look in the top right corner of this slide, you will see what the symbols in these diagrams mean. So the purple person is the person who wants to use Teams. For example, they would be a remote expert. And the green person is someone who wants to use Remote Assist, for example, a first-line worker or technician. If you see the Teams symbol, the Teams icon next to someone, it means that they already have the Teams license. And if you see the Remote Assist icon next to someone, it means they already have the Remote Assist license. So again, we're going through a scenario where the experts and the first-line workers are in the same tenant and already have the licenses that they need. So if this is your scenario, there's no additional configuration step needed. Experts and first-line workers remote assist users and Teams users can search and collaborate with each other already. So, however, your scenario might not involve only people in the same tenant. It's possible that people who want to use Teams and people who want to use Remote Assist are in different tenants, either within the same company or maybe even in entirely different companies. So let's look at the scenario depicted in this middle diagram, and again, use the example of the remote expert and the new hire who wants to use Remote Assist to get help. So in this diagram, you see that tenant ABC, that might be your tenant, has experts who want to use Teams and already have Teams. Then you have an external tenant, X1, and external tenant, X2. So let's just say that you want the experts to search and collaborate with technicians in X1, and you want experts to search and collaborate with people in X2, but you don't want the first-line workers in X1 and X2 to talk to each other. So what do you do in that case? Well, you will need to decide whether you want to implement external access or guest access. So let's go over those two options. I'm going to start by explaining what these two options mean, how to set it up, and then also go over some pros and cons that will help you decide whether you want to use external access or guest access. So external access is a Teams feature that allows Teams users from an entire tenant to use Teams to find, call, chat, and set up meetings with users in another tenant. So there are three ways to enable external access. So one, your tenant can have Open Federation on, which is on by default, or a tenant can specify which other tenants they want to have on their allow list, or tenant can specify what tenants they want to have on their blocked tenant list. So let's just say that your tenant enables external access with X1, and ABC also enables external access with X2. So in that way, ABC can search and collaborate with X1, ABC can do the same with X2, but because external access is not enabled with X1 and X2, those two tenants cannot search and collaborate with each other. So the other option you have is to use guest access. Guest access is a Teams feature that enables Teams admins or members to add individual users from outside their tenant into specific teams, and channels. So in this example, let's just say that X1 only wants to collaborate with Expert 1 and not Expert 2. So then X1 will guest Expert 1 at abc.com into their X1 tenant. And then Expert 1 and the first-line worker 1 can search and collaborate with each other. And it's pretty similar for X2. Let's just say X2 only wants to collaborate with Expert 2. Then X2 can guest Expert 2 into the X2 tenant, and then people in that tenant can search and collaborate with each other. Now let's go over some pros and cons of external access versus guest access. So on the left side, we have external access. One of the pros is that Open Federation is typically on by default, and if it's not on, it's quite easy to configure. A con of external access is that not only does ABC have to enable external access, but X1 and X2 have to do some configuration as well, either by having Open Federation on or specifying their allow domains or block domains. Next, Federation has fewer control features than guesting. So the purpose of Federation is to enable two entire tenants to search and collaborate with each other. So that means that you're enabling kind of permissions to search and collaborate on a tenant level, whereas for guest access, you saw that each external tenant, like X1, was able to guest a specific member of tenant ABC into their X1 tenant. So another downside of external access is that external access is currently not available for Remote Assist mobile users, and also for Remote Assist HoloLens users who are able to make a call when they have external access enabled with some Teams user, that in that call, they will not be able to use group calling or file sharing. So now let's talk about option 2, which is guest access. A great pro of guest access is that, like I mentioned in the example, X1 and X2 can guest specific users into their tenant rather than enable collaboration for all users in their tenant and in tenant ABC. However, because tenant X1 is now guesting specific users into their tenant, that might require more user management. Also, another downside of guest access is kind of some work that the Teams user has to do to make sure that they're in the correct tenant. So in this example, expert 1 is a member of ABC and is a guest in tenant X1. So when expert 1 goes to use Teams, they will be able to toggle which tenant they use Teams in. When expert 1 is using Teams in the ABC tenant, they will be able to get notifications from other people in the ABC tenant. And they will not be able to get notifications from people in another tenant. So let's just say that expert 1 is in tenant ABC, they will not be able to get a message or a phone call from someone in tenant X1. And another thing that you need to keep in mind is that if you want to enable guest access, then X1 and X2, who are enabling guests to join their tenant, X1 and X2 must turn on guest access for their entire tenant. Now let's go over the third common tenant configuration, which is that maybe your vendor wants to enable external contractors or vendors to use Remote Assist. And these vendors don't already have Remote Assist, but you want to enable them to use Remote Assist without them having to purchase and set up Remote Assist licenses. So you can see that scenario depicted in this diagram. Again, ABC contains the experts, and these experts want to collaborate with a vendor who maybe has their own tenant, or a vendor who maybe is not part of any tenant at all, and they're just using their personal email. If this is your scenario, you should look into deploying service accounts for your vendors. So when you have this sort of scenario, this is what the different tenants looks like at the beginning. And now let's see step by step what happens and what you need to do to set up service accounts. So the first thing you need to do is you need to create service accounts. Sorry, you being ABC, the ABC tenant needs to create service accounts in their tenant. And those are the emails that were just added in the very bottom of the ABC tenant box. So maybe the service account would be vendor1x1@abc.com or vendor1outlook@abc.com. Next, the ABC tenant will need to deploy Remote Assist licenses to each service account. Third, the ABC tenant will need to provide service account credentials to vendors to enable them to log in and use Remote Assist. So you can see with the lines here that vendor1@x1.com, that might be the email that they typically use for work, but if they want to use Remote Assist, they would need to sign into Remote Assist using the service account credential. So vendor1@x1.com would go on Remote Assist and sign in using vendor1_x1@abc.com email. And similar for vendor1@outlook.com. And again, this is an explanation of how to set this up technically, but to appropriately license vendors to use Remote Assist, you must first contact your Microsoft sales representative. So now that you have all of this set up, everyone who is in tenant ABC can search and collaborate with each other. However, there might be some scenarios where you only want people listed in gold to collaborate with each other and people who are in pink to collaborate with each other. So how do you specify this more granular collaboration? So you would be able to use information barriers. So a quick explanation of what information barriers are. So in Microsoft Teams, information barrier policies determine and prevent the following kinds of unauthorized communications, which include searching for a user, inviting someone to join a meeting, calling someone, etc. And information barriers are bidirectional, which means that if you want users in segment A to talk to and collaborate with users in segment B, that means users in segment B can also search and collaborate with segment A. It's always bidirectional. So if you want to set up information barriers, they are included in various subscriptions, including some of the ones that I've listed here. All right, thank you. So now let's turn it over back to Jason to answer some common questions that people have about using Remote Assist.
Thanks, Sophia. So we get a lot of questions. The PM group gets a lot of questions, and we understand that Remote Assist and setting up can be complex. There are intricacies within the application and how it's displayed and used. And so we put together a collection of these are just common questions we get that we think we can help you with that might help some of the questions that you have as you're working with your customers or working with Remote Assist. So just to be clear, which tenants can annotate in a Remote Assist call? Which Teams clients can annotate in a Remote Assist call? That's the desktop for Windows 10 and the mobile for Android and iOS that are qualifying AR capable applications. That means no, we don't actually support web right now for annotations, and we don't support Mac, for instance, for annotations. Does Remote Assist Mobile support group callings or meetings? Unfortunately, not at this time. This is something we're looking into, and it could be a future feature. Can a Remote Assist mobile user call another Remote Assist mobile user directly? No. All the calls must be between Remote Assist, the Remote Assist application, and a Teams client or a Teams application. Which mobile devices are supported with Remote Assist? So these are the iOS and Android phones that support ARKit or ARCore. These are the augmented reality SDKs that are required in order to make Remote Assist be augmented, use augmented reality on mobile. We don't control that. Those full lists are controlled by Google and Apple. And we've got the links in there when you actually come back to look at the presentation. Is there an SDK to develop custom functionality for Remote Assist? No, there isn't. But we do support something called protocol activation on the HoloLens. And I've included the link to the documentation there so you can understand what protocol activation is for further review. Can you record a call? Yes, you can record a call. On HoloLens, you can record a one-to-one call, a group call, and a meeting with a PC desktop. And on Remote Assist Mobile, you can record a one-to-one call with a PC desktop. Can I assign a Remote Assist license to a guest? No, you can't at this time. Remote Assist licenses, they have to be assigned to an AAD count on the tenant where Remote Assist will be used. That's not a function. We don't support giving a guest a Remote Assist license yet. Who needs a Remote Assist license at a call? The only people that need a Remote Assist license are the people who are using the actual Remote Assist applications. And so that's on HoloLens or mobile. Everybody else can just use Teams. Will any Teams license work when communicating with Remote Assist? That's right. There are various ways in which you can get Teams licenses. And that could be Teams Freemium. That could be, you could actually be a Teams guest and be able to communicate with Remote Assist. And so, yeah, any Teams version will work. We support all of them as long as it's on desktop or mobile. Does Remote Assist support using Bluetooth headphones? Yes. On mobile, there's currently a little bit of bug there where the icon doesn't update correctly. But on mobile, there is what looks like an audio icon. Once you've got Bluetooth headphones hooked up to your mobile, you just tap that. You may have to tap it a couple times to get it to switch to Bluetooth from the external speaker to the Bluetooth to the actual headset version of it. On HoloLens, the HoloLens 2 does support Bluetooth headphones, but they are audio out. The microphone still comes from the microphone array that is built into the HoloLens 2. Can a Teams user share their screen to a Remote Assist user? Yes. If the Teams user is on PC, on the desktop version, they can share their desktop. They can share their screen to the Remote Assist user on HoloLens, not on mobile. Is it possible in Remote Assist Mobile to see both the feed from the rear and front camera to see the caller? No. Right now, only the rear camera is supported on Remote Assist Mobile. Does Remote Assist support on-prem? No, it's cloud only. Same as Teams. What is the Remote Assist attached SKU? So sometimes people see this attached SKU. It's an offer for Dynamics Field Service customers, and it's a bundled Remote Assist at a reduced license cost. Which countries is Remote Assist Mobile supported in? Right now on Android, it's in 146 countries. It's not in Cuba or Sudan or Iran. It is also available in China, but it is we're connected to a global tenant, but it's not in the store there currently. That's because there is no Google Play Store in China, and we are working on getting it into the third-party stores there. For iOS, it's in 155 regions. Is Remote Assist available on any other HMD platforms like RealWear, Google Glass, Vuzix, or anything like that? No. Currently, it's only available on HoloLens, HoloLens 2, and those compatible Android and iOS phones and tablets. I'm not going to go through a list of languages, but Remote Assist Mobile is supported in a lot of different languages currently. And then this is just a chance for us to go through the QA. We're making great time today. And so this would be a chance for us to reflect some of the things that we're seeing in the QA and answer some of those questions. Let's take a look. I'll repeat some of these because I understand AJ said that they don't actually get put into the recording. So I will repeat some of these. Dan asked, what are some examples of call log information that is saved to the work order? Zanash answered, name of the remote collaborator, timestamp, and call duration, for instance. Anonymous asked, what if there is no internet connectivity? Can I still record and use the tools? No, we do not support offline remote assist at this point. That is a feature we're looking into for future development. What is the claim battery life for remote assist usage? It's 2 to 2.5 hours for the HoloLens 2. Let's see, is it possible to integrate remote assist features in our own Unity, HoloLens Unity applications? It is not. That's what protocol activation is about. And so you asked, if not, is it possible to switch between our application and remote assist and to share data between our application and remote assist? Ben included a link to this. So protocol activation allows you to use your HoloLens Unity app to call. Essentially what it does is you will be able to instigate the call to remote assist. It switches over to remote assist, and then you switch back to your application. And while you're in this mode, you have some limitations on what's going to happen with remote assist. It's because you're now in a mode on the HoloLens where you're trying to run 2 different applications simultaneously. And what that does is remote assist itself kind of has to shrink down into this very minimalistic mode in order to allow that to happen. There's more details on the website related to protocol activation. Does Remote Assist support access to files on SharePoint through Teams? Currently we only support OneDrive for business. And then you can also post things into the chat as well.
However, if you would like to show someone a file and you're using a Teams desktop, you are able to share your screen and show the file that way.
Exactly. I am using Remote Assist to help a customer of my company. What will they need on their device? Will they need the various license mentioned? So whoever's going to use Remote Assist, they will need the Remote Assist license. They will need to install the Remote Assist app, and they'll also need a Teams license, and they'll need to be the Remote Assist license, and their account will need to exist on the tenant that where the Remote Assist license exists. I'm trying to see if there are any other questions that we want to answer at this time, looking through the new list of questions. If there's any of our presenters that want to comment on any of the questions, please go ahead. Okay, so I don't see any that we haven't addressed or got ready to go.
Sophia, do you want to talk about the difference in experience for HoloLens 1 and 2?
Oh, yes, absolutely. That's a great question. So the feature set that's available for Remote Assist on HoloLens and HoloLens 2 is exactly the same. The only difference is how people interact with the UI. So for HoloLens 1, also known as HoloLens, when you are selecting different buttons, you would use gaze and air tap. So air tap is just like the way that you would click on a button to select it. But for HoloLens 2, as Jason mentioned, we include a lot more natural gestures and what we call articulated hand tracking, which enables people to interact with holograms more naturally. For example, to move a slate or to move a window, people can just grab the window and place it somewhere in the world. When interacting with a keyboard, instead of looking at each key and pressing and using air tap, someone can just reach out and touch the keyboard keys directly. So again, the feature set is exactly the same, but the interactions are just more natural on HoloLens 2.
So there's a question, does Remote Assist integrate with Dynamics 365 F&O? Not at this time. We are working on future features that would utilize customer asset identities and would work with field service and F&O. This is coming later in the year.
Another question that I think is great to answer. Someone asked, I could use a Teams call to ask for assistance. What are the benefits of using Remote Assist instead? And so I think this is a great question. So Ben already mentioned that, with the HoloLens, you get this heads-up, hands-free capabilities. And we've also seen, like with customers, that they really like to use the AR annotations to, specify exactly where you would want to, point to. And we've even seen cases where issues of language barriers come in and we're pointing and, marking up, the live video feed or, a snapshot would be super helpful. And so some of those are, the reasons why you would use Remote Assist instead. And then we also have this field service integration where you can, automatically post call logs and, files shared within the call to automatically to your field service work order. And lastly, we also have the ability to, record one-to-one, one-to-one calls between a Remote Assist mobile user and a Teams users. And right now that's not on Teams at the moment. And so those are some of the reasons why we think that Remote Assist would be beneficial.
Yeah, that's a great point. On Teams, you are only able to record a one-to-one call if it's a meeting with two people. However, on Teams, if you're making an ad hoc call between two Teams users, that ad hoc one-to-one call cannot be recorded.
Couple other questions. Will you comment further about how it interacts with Stream? So when you record a call, you're doing a cloud recording. That cloud recording gets saved and will be displayed, will actually be put into Stream. That's where you access it. And so at the end of the call, once it's posted to Stream, you get a link in the chat window or the chat that gives you the link to the stream, the file. Can I do post-processing on the video recordings after they're saved, either in Stream or D365 to blur faces or compliance? I think so. Once it's posted to the stream, it's your video. You can do anything you want with it. I'm also assuming it would not work directly with D365 customer engagement. Is that right? Correct at this time. Currently, we're just integrated with field service, but we are looking at integrating with all the other D365 applications very soon, as soon as we can. For the recordings, does the OneDrive store default to the first line worker or to an org location? It actually stores, it doesn't store recordings to OneDrive, it stores them to stream. Will it be possible in the near future to provide a customer a limited free access from already paid account license? We are looking into other B2B and B2C possibilities with our licensing. We're not commenting on anything publicly at this point and can't commit to anything along those lines yet. What other types of annotations are planned besides pen and arrows? We are looking at further annotation types. We haven't publicly put any in the roadmap, but I do know the team is looking at customer feedback related to annotations and how they can be improved. And then we'll be looking at in the future. Can you turn the mobile flashlight on off from within the Remote Assist app? Zanasha, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I don't think that's possible.
I don't think that's possible.
Sorry, is it or is not?
It is not.
How to get a client to access Remote Assist if they already have a 365 account? So Zanasha kind of laid it out there. You can today, if you already have a Teams, if your organization already has Teams rolled out, getting Remote Assist to test is pretty easy. You can do the 90-day license-free mode, which essentially you just download the app and log in with your Teams login, and you're ready to use Remote Assist immediately on your phone or on your HoloLens. File attachments can be sent, but what about opened? Let's say Teams expert shared a Word doc, PDF, or PPT. Can a HoloLens user open that attachment? So PDFs, yes. JPEG and some other image files, yes. Word docs and and PowerPoint decks aren't supported as file types with the HoloLens right now. They are supported as a transferable file type on mobile. And then on mobile, when you click on, let's say you clicked on a Word doc or clicked on a PowerPoint, it would actually, because the phones can have multiple applications going at the same time, it would switch over to PowerPoint to display that, or Word, for instance.
Yeah, I'd like to add on to that. So when a Teams user shares a file either from OneDrive or from their local device, if they can share a file and it'll pop up in the HoloLens user's world. If it's, sorry, let me just explain that again. So let's just say the Teams user shares a OneDrive file or local file, it will pop up in the HoloLens user's environment, and they can grab the holographic window and place it anywhere they would like. And when they share when I say share a file, that means the file pops up in the HoloLens user's environment, and two, the link to the file is shared in the chat and will be available to both the Remote Assist user and Teams user after the chat. So that's what we call file sharing. However, if your goal is really to show the Remote Assist user a file, for example, show them a training video or show them a PowerPoint, a way to do that is through screen sharing. So the Teams user would share their screen. The screen would pop up as a holographic window, and the Teams user could control which slide that they're looking at, or control what part of the video that they're looking at. So when the Teams user shares their screen, the HoloLens user still sees that screen pop up in their environment. They just don't have that file is just not shared with them in the text chat.
Another question: if RA is used by a company's customer remote workforce, I guess, meaning the expert is at company A, but the first line worker is guest from company B, each first line worker requires a license that accesses Remote Assist, correct? That is true. Also, you cannot assign a Remote Assist license to a guest account. You would need the company B person, as Sophia kind of ran through. The company B person would need to have an account with company A, and then could be assigned a Remote Assist license.
Yeah, so just to go through the deck, it seems like the scenario that you mentioned is this third one here. And yeah, so either the external tenant, so either X1 would need to assign Remote Assist licenses to users in their tenant, or your own company, let's just say your ABC, you can set up service accounts in your tenant and provide those service accounts to the external user. But again, when you're using service accounts, and particularly when you're enabling another company to use your Remote Assist license, you should definitely talk to your Microsoft sales representative to make sure that you're appropriately licensing the license.
Trying to look to see if there's any quick other questions we can answer. Zanasha, does RA app post any chat text comments during an RA call to the field service work order? So the question is, what's included in when you post at the end of a call, when you post the call log to the field service work order, what's included in the call log?
Yeah, so you currently cannot post like the text history, like the the messages that you were saying. Yeah, the transcript. Thank you, Sophia. That's in the text chat, but you can send your call log, which includes the name of the remote collaborator that you talked to, this timestamp and the date. And then you can also post the files shared during the call. So that could be, Excel sheet or a PDF document. All those files would be shared to the work order.
I think we've got, I think that's it on the questions for now. We're also at an hour-long length, and I think maybe that's a good time. AJ, is there any other steps that are required at this time?
Yeah, no, if you have any closing comments, just let me know, then after that I can just close out the session.
So if there's anybody who has any remaining questions, which we can't get to all of them, but there are a few here. So I see there's one that is around who can I reach out to around trying to get HoloLens 2s. You need to get access. You need to get a hold of the MR mixed reality sales group to get in line. I think essentially to get on the procurement list for HoloLenses. So Fabrice asks, as a CSP and MR expert, we are quite often asked to deploy remote assist licenses on an existing Office 365 tenant where one or two other partners are already registered to manage the whole tenant. As the number of registered partners is limited to 2 seats on a tenant, is a real business blocker. Is there another way to deploy licenses without requiring the CSP registration on the tenant? Is there a workaround? I'm sorry, I don't have an answer on that one. That's pretty detailed on the Office 365 tenant limitations. And I think we probably would need to get an Office 365 expert to answer those. Is it possible to show custom flat apps in a remote assist call? If it's coming from the PC and you're screen sharing it, yes. If you mean having a custom app open on HoloLens while also having remote assist, it being in a remote assist call, you technically can do that. So there is a way to minimize remote assist and continue having the call. So what you do is you start a call, you get a call going, and then and this is only for HoloLens, you use what's called the bloom gesture, get yourself back out to, so the call's still happening, you get yourself out, you use the bloom gesture, get out to the HoloLens. The expert is still seeing the call. So the expert sees the call, but in this reduced state, remote assist can't annotate anymore. The audio is both ways, that's fine. The video is coming only from the HoloLens. The HoloLens does not see the web video. Sorry, the HoloLens does not see the video that's coming from the desktop's webcam, for instance. But you are able to start another app, and that could be a custom flat app, or it could be an exclusive app. You are able to start that app up on the HoloLens, and the expert, in this case, will see everything that's going on the HoloLens, including whatever's happening in the application itself. How can we request vote for new features? That's on the Dynamics Ideas Forum for Remote Assist. And I don't have that link immediately, but we can put the link, we'll put it into the PowerPoint that goes with this, that goes with the webinar. I think that's it. Thank you, everyone, for your questions and your time. We hope that you've had a good time and been informed on our very first Dynamics 365 Remote Assist webinar. If you have further questions, I think we will be including some information in the PowerPoint on how to ask more questions. You can also go to, so for ideas, you can go to the Dynamics 365 ideas posts. For just general questions, you can go to the Dynamics 365 Remote Assist forum and post questions in the forum. All of us here take a look at that forum and answer on the forum. I think those are probably the best ways to get a hold of us today. And then some of you maybe on, yeah, I think it's probably the best way. AJ, I think that's it, unless Sophia and Zanasha have anything else to add.
Yeah, so our documentation is also linked in this PowerPoint, and if you go to our documentation, you'll learn a lot more details about each of the features, how to use them, what's the experience of using them, and there are also how-to videos explaining, yeah, just like showing you how those features work.
Great. So thank you, everybody. AJ, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. Yeah, I've posted a short link to a survey in the Q&A panel. We'd love to hear your feedback on today's session and let us know what you'd like to see in future events. The survey scores are on a scale from 1 to 5, with 5 being the highest score possible. It takes less than 3 minutes, so we do appreciate any participation in that. As a reminder, attendees can access the recording and all session materials via the same registration link used to attend today's live broadcast. And I'd like to extend a big thank you to our presenters and, of course, you, the audience, for logging in and joining us today. This concludes today's event.